Morning and happy Mother's Day. We're going to be talking about the heart of a mother since it's Mother's Day. So I wanted to share with you a few slides that I thought that you might like. For example, those of us who are older remember Dumbo and the love of the mother for its baby. This one's a little hard to read, so let me read it. A child's hand in yours, what tenderness and power it arouses. You are instantly the very touchstone of wisdom and strength. Marjorie Holmes. You have your capes in your closets? I'm sure that's how you do it, but it's not always a bed of roses for you. Yeah. And so, even though it's Mother's Day, you still have to work. Well, let's get a little more religious here. How about this one? God has blessed each of us in so many different ways with gifts of grace and goodness that come throughout our days. But of all these many blessings, one stands above most others. Let's not forget to show our thanks for His gracious gift of mothers. And then, is it Mother's Day? I better get her something. But this really kind of sums up a mother's love.
Amen.
So said from the mother of a teenager. Yes, so it is. I like this quote from Balzac. The heart of a mother is a deep abyss, at the bottom of which you will always find forgiveness. You may not have heard yet, but there was a poll that was taken, and in that poll, they got responses, and there was a person who was voted as the best mother of all time. And here she is, voted best mother of all time. Her name is Mom. She's my mother. I voted her. I figure the casinos are doing it all the time. I could too. Voted best mother of all time. We all, as we reflect upon our mothers, if you had to take a poll, if you were to be in a vote, hopefully you too would vote for your mother as the best mother of all time. Because mothers are something who are very, very, very special. Maybe it's because we get our first contact with humanity in the womb. Maybe it's because of the voice that we hear and the heartbeat and how we relate to that even before we are born. Maybe it's just the heart of a mother that continues and continues to grow and to be with us forever and ever. Whatever it is, whenever we get our 15 seconds of notoriety, whenever we get our 15 seconds of praise, we want to share it with Mom. And so no matter what it is, we like to include Mom in that. Whether it's on the beach or whether we are protesting or on vacation, it's always Mom, Mom. Never Dad, always Mom, Mom. Even Prince Philip, whenever he heard the word mommy, began to suck his thumb and pull on his ear. Or Prince John, excuse me. It's because, as you know, we have to take mothers in very serious light. We have to treat them a little differently than we do other people. Because you know the saying, if Mom ain't happy, ain't nobody happy. And so as we deal with our moms, I've learned that we need to treat our moms differently than we treat other people because we have to keep them happy. So we talk to them differently. We deal with them with respect. I can only remember one time when my mother ever hit me. I was a child of the 60s and 70s, and I loved that new invention, colored television. And I would spend a lot of time in front of the TV. What are you laughing at, Caleb? Spend a lot of time in front of the TV watching the different shows that were on. But my mom, on the other hand, didn't like it. She'd sit in the other room and do, of all things, read a book. But she would do that, and one time we got into a little discussion, and there was a show on TV at that time. Some of you may have heard of it. It was called Rowan and Martin's Laugh-In. And they used to have weird phrases that they would use. And she did not understand when I said, look it up in your Funkin' Wagnalls, that I was referring to a dictionary. That was the last time she hit me. I was at... Never forget that one. But I'm a proud owner now of a Funkin' Wagnall. So that I can show it to people if they have any questions. And we won't even talk about Bippies. Okay. So in order to work with my mom, I always loved my mom and wanted to do things with her and wanted to please her. Perhaps the idea of pleasing her was most often. I wanted to make sure that she was happy, because if mom's not happy, nobody's happy. But there was a problem. There was a problem in keeping her happy, and that was I had a sister. My sister is 2 years younger than me. And when she was born, she thought that she was in charge. And she oftentimes did not show respect for her 2-year older brother. And sometimes she would do things and she would say things that were not, that I did not appreciate. And, I wanted to, she needed to know what respect was for her older brother. She needed to, and so I wanted to take her out and beat her to a pulp, but what do you do with this? You can't divorce a sister. You're stuck with her. So about the only option I had was to kill her, but I really didn't want to do that. Well, sometimes I did. But so I went to my dad and I said, Dad, what am I going to do? I just can't stand being around her. What am I going to do? And he said, well, go out in the backyard and I'll give her a bat and you guys whack it out. I thought that might work. She might get in one good hit. I might have broken ribs, but she'd finally feel the wrath of Paul. But Mom was a little different. When Mom heard that we were having this problem, she would call us together and she would call us in, and it doesn't make any difference how old I was. Sometimes she would have me sit on her knee and listen to her talk. Talk about torture. Have to sit there and listen to her talk, and she talked about how we're all family and how we're supposed to love one another and all that stuff. And then she would say this, hug and make up. And I would think, well, maybe I could step on her toe accidentally as I'm hugging her, or maybe give her a good pinch when I put my arms around her. But Mom was supervising, so I couldn't do that very well. So I would grin and bear it and give her a hug. And something happened. I don't know what it was. Maybe because the proximity. Because when we're warring, we're always separated from one another. And now we're brought close together. And maybe it was that did it. But for some reason, I didn't seem to hate her very much after that. It didn't happen right away. It took a long time for it to take place. But Mom was right. Hug and make up. Have you ever had this happen to you? The most feared words for a child. I'm going to tell Mom. My sister and I would get into arguments, or we would be playing, and I would do something that she wouldn't like, and she'd holler, I'm going to tell Mom, and she'd take off running. Now remember, she was 2 years younger than I was, and I was a speedster. So when she took off running, I would take off running after her. Not because I didn't believe in the righteousness or mercy of my mother as far as judging, but because I knew my sister wasn't going to tell the truth. She was going to give her vision of the story instead of what was true. That means my vision. And so I would take off running after her to tell Mom what really happened. We wanted to get it straight, wanted to get it worked out. And you know what Mom would do? Come here, sit on my lap. Oh, no. Oh, no. And then she would finish with, hug and make up. Oh, how horrible that was. This horrible hugging made me want to reconcile with her. And so the next time it happened, says, wait, sis, before you take off running. You know that if you're going to go, mom doesn't like tattletales. Not only that, if you go running and tell on me, I'm going to have to tell on you. So let's see if we can fix it here before we go running off to mom. Is that okay? And so we started resolving our problems before we got there. You know, the love of a mother, as I ponder it, makes me think of the love of God. The heart of a mother is a reflection of the heart of God. In fact, there's a phrase in Luke chapter 19. Jesus is approaching Jerusalem with what we normally call the triumphal entry. And in verse 41, it says that as Jesus came upon the brow of the hill and looked down over the city, it says that Jesus wept for the city. That is the heart of a mother. In fact, if you went and looked at its corollary in Matthew, you would see that in Matthew 23, verse 37, it says that Jesus, when he was weeping, he said, "Oh, how often I have longed to gather your children together as a hen gathers her chicks under her wings." Oh, how I long to be able. That is the heart of a mother, gathering her children together and saying, "Stop this bickering, stop this fighting. Let's come together. Let's love one another." The word that is used for weeping appears the first time in the New Testament in Matthew chapter 23. You may remember the passage. Or excuse me, not Matthew chapter 23. It's in Matthew chapter 2. And this is the story, quote from Jeremiah chapter 31, where the children in Bethlehem had been slaughtered and its environs. They had been slaughtered, and so there Matthew quotes Jeremiah, and he says, this is what the prophet had said. "A voice is heard in Ramah, weeping." There's that word. The same word that was used, that Jesus on the hill. Weeping in great mourning. Rachel weeping for her children and refusing to be comforted because they are no more. That is the heart of a mother. Mothers who have lost children, you know you never forget. You know you're never fully comforted. You know it's there with you. That's the heart of God. That's the heart of Jesus. Beginning in the New Testament in Matthew chapter 2. And then that word is used one other time in John chapter 20 at the end of the New Testament, where Jesus has risen from the grave and the women have come up and checked it out, and they've discovered that the tomb is empty, and they go back and they tell the disciples, and then they come back and Mary is left there, and Mary is weeping. Weeping, that word is used there. And Jesus says, "Woman, why are you weeping?" And she turns to him and doesn't acknowledge him, doesn't know who he is. And he says, "They've taken our Lord away. Where have they put him? Tell me and I'll go get him." Jesus said, "Woman, why are you weeping?" The heart of a mother. The heart of God. The loveliest masterpiece of the heart of God is the love of a mother. Is the love of a mother. For us to get a closer glimpse, for us to be able to understand a little bit better the love of God, we need to take a moment and reflect on the love of a mother. And once we do that, when we begin to read passages like the one that was read for us earlier today from the Sermon on the Mount, that sounds like a bunch of rules, a bunch of different things that we're supposed to do. We need to remember that they come from the heart of a mother, like your mother talking to us. And if mom's not happy, nobody's going to be happy. If God's not happy, you know you're not going to be happy. So I'd like for us to look at those passages again and look at them from the heart of a mother. Not just as rules or things that we're supposed to follow and do, but look at the love, at the heart. You've heard that it was said to the people long ago, you shall not murder. Well, I passed that test. I haven't murdered anybody recently. I haven't murdered anybody, even though there was a time when my sister that I may have wanted to. Oh, it says that too. But I tell you that anyone who is angry with a brother or sister will be subject to, better watch your language, how you talk to people too. From the heart of a mother. God is speaking to us not to tell us to do things so that because God decided that's what you need to do, like a principal coming in and saying, okay, all you people, get rid of your cell phones. You can't use cell phones in classes anymore. But God gives it to us because He has the heart of a mother. He says, don't be angry with one another. You need to love one another because after all, you are related. You are all from my womb. So hug and make up. He's not talking about do not murder, do not be angry. He's talking about relationships, how we are to love one another. The next section goes on and says, if you're preparing a sacrifice at the altar in the temple, you suddenly remember that someone is something against you, leave your sacrifice there at the altar, go and be reconciled. I'm going to tell Mom on you. No, you're not. I'm going to tell her first. So we run off. But what is Jesus really telling us here? What is the heart of the mother telling us here? What is it that we can take with us from the heart of the mother? First thing, that the relationship is the most important thing. It's not whether you're right or whether you're wrong, whether you're the victim or whether you're the agitator. It's the relationship that is important. Fix the relationship. Notice that it says, if you remember that someone has something against you, you go. Leave your sacrifice and go and be reconciled. Be reconciled. Moms don't like to see their children fighting. They want to bring them together. It doesn't make any difference who's right. Doesn't make any difference who's wrong. It doesn't make any difference about a lot of things that the people who are fighting seem to think are very important. What is important is how we treat one another. And Mom will say to you, go and hug and make up. The relationship is key and is very important. In Matthew 5, verses 25 and 26, this is read for us. It says, settle matters quickly with your adversary as taking you to court. Do it while you are still together on the way. Your adversary may hand you over to the judge, and the judge may hand you over to the officer, and it's going to get worse and worse and worse. Mom doesn't like tattletales. I don't guess God does really either. But instead of running and trying to be quick, or trying to be the first one to tell, or trying to get your word in, maybe we should be, as it says in another place, quick to listen, slow to speak, and eager to be reconciled. Or as John says in his letter, 1 John, he says, how can you love God if you don't love your brother? How can you love God who you don't see if you won't love your brother who you do see? Be reconciled to God. As Mom might say, hug and make up. Hug and make up. What do you see? Do you see the black dot? Everybody sees the black dot. But do you see the hand? The hand is much bigger. Sometimes we'll look at passages of Scripture like this, and we will look at the black and the white. We will look at the things that are written there, and we will say, well, I've done that. I don't need to do anything else. And we'll praise ourselves and say, we're great. But I want to encourage you today that when you read through the passages like this, that look like they're showing us or telling us rules that we need to follow, I want you to look past the dot and look at the flesh and blood. Look at the hand of God, the hand of Jesus, the hand that was put there for you. Because it was from the heart of a mother, the Creator, that you are here. And it's with that same heart that all these things are given to us. Do not read through these and come up with your checklist that you can mark off. For the heart that is greater than that of the mother is that of the flesh and blood of Jesus, who's given so much for us that we might live. May we continue to be people of God who love not because we're commanded, but who love with sincerity and truth. And may we revisit our relationships with one another through the heart of God, as we've seen it today, through the heart of the mother. How sweet, how heavenly is the sight when those who love the Lord come together in one accord and praise Him because they are familiar and they know the heart of God. Let's sing together.
How sweet, how heavenly is the sight on those that love the Lord.